Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely, because right here might just shift the trajectory of your entire life and business. Too many people today are chasing validation, attention, and acceptance like it's currency. But let me tell you something straight: availability is not the same as value. Diamonds are valuable not because they're lying around everywhere. You can't just pick one up on the street. They're valuable because they are rare. They are valuable because it takes pressure, heat, time, and precision to create them. And that same principle applies to you. Value is proven through rarity, not availability. This principle is not just economic. It's deeply personal, deeply spiritual, and deeply practical. We live in a culture that often encourages people to be constantly present, constantly visible, constantly available. The belief is that the more accessible you are, the more successful or loved you will be. But that is not how real value works. Think about the things we consider most valuable in the world: gold, diamonds, rare artwork, luxury cars, private coaching with top experts. None of these things are found on every corner. They are not common, they are not easy to access, and they are not for everyone. Their value is not determined by how often people can get them. Their value is determined by how selective, refined, and rare they are. It's the very fact that not everyone can get them that makes them desirable. Rarity drives demand. Rarity creates respect. Now let's apply this to people. When you make yourself available all the time to everyone for everything, you communicate that your time, your wisdom, your energy, and your presence don't require discernment to access. You're basically telling the world, you don't have to qualify for my time. I'll give it away just because you asked. And when people don't have to earn access, they don't value it. What's easily given is easily dismissed. What's always present gets taken for granted. That's why some of the most respected leaders, as entrepreneurs and thinkers, are incredibly selective with their time. Not because they're arrogant, not because they think they're better than others, but because they understand that attention and presence are investments, not donations. They've built value through discipline, refinement, and experience as it helps us. And they don't give that value away without intention. Being rare doesn't mean you disappear or isolate yourself. It means you show up with purpose. It means you're intentional about who you work with, who you spend time with, and what environments you place yourself in. It means you don't put yourself in every conversation, every event, every online debate, every client request, because doing so would dilute your power. When you're everywhere, you stand for nothing. When you're always available, you become background noise instead of a powerful signal. Even in business, exclusivity is a proven strategy: high-ticket programs, luxury products, limited edition services. These don't attract everyone, but they attract the right people. Why? Because they're not trying to be accessible to the masses. They're focused on providing extraordinary value to a few who are ready to receive it. The same goes for your personal brand and your identity. If you want to be seen as high value, you must first treat yourself as high value. You don't have to be rude or dismissive. You just have to understand that your availability should reflect your worth. If you spend your days constantly reacting, constantly people-pleasing, helps us. Constantly saying yes to things that don't align with your calling, you are not living in your value. You are leaking it. And eventually, that leads to burnout, bitterness, and blurred purpose. When you choose to be rare, you're not being selfish, you're being strategic. You're sending a clear signal. My time is valuable. My presence is valuable. My contribution is valuable. And it's not up for grabs. That signal changes how people approach you, how they speak to you, and how they respect your boundaries. Being always available lowers perceived worth. It's a truth that plays out in relationships, in business and leadership, and in everyday interactions. When something or someone is constantly accessible, it's easy for others to assume it's ordinary. Familiarity doesn't just breed comfort, too much of it breeds complacency. When people can reach you anytime they want, when you're always quick to respond, always ready to give, always saying yes, you subtly teach them not to value your time or presence. In business, this principle is crystal clear. If a product is always on sale, people question its original price. If a coach is always available for free consultations, people question whether their advice is worth paying for. If a consultant never sets boundaries, clients assume their time can be requested at any moment for any reason. The same mindset seeps into relationships. If you're always the one picking up the phone, always adjusting your schedule, always showing up first and waiting last, you might feel like you're proving your loyalty. But what you're really doing is teaching others to take your effort for granted. Human psychology responds to boundaries. When something is limited, we pay attention. When access is earned, we show up with respect. But when access is handed out with no cost, it becomes easy to disregard. This is not about playing games or withholding kindness. It's about creating space for people to honor your presence instead of assuming it's always guaranteed. People often confuse kindness with availability, but they are not the same. You can be kind and still set firm boundaries. You can be generous and still say no. You can be present for people you care about without being yourself constantly accessible. Constant availability isn't a strength. It's a signal that you haven't clarified your priorities. If you don't protect your time, no one else will. If you don't value your space, no one else will treat it with care. There's also a deep emotional cost to always being available. You begin to stretch yourself thin. Your calendar fills up with other people's demands. Your creativity, your peace, your purpose, these start to fade into the background as you react to everyone else's expectations. It may feel noble at first. It may feel like you're being responsible, needed, helpful. But over time, that sense of importance becomes a trap. You become more reactive than intentional, more burnt out than fulfilled. The more you give your availability without discernment, the less people appreciate it, and the more disconnected you feel from your own value. Let's be clear, you teach people how to treat you. If you don't communicate limits, they won't imagine you have any. If you always say yes, they'll stop asking if it's the right time. If you answer every message instantly, they'll expect it as a rule. This isn't their fault, it's the message you've sent. And the good news is you can change that message anytime, not through conflict, but through clarity, by simply choosing to make your time valuable again. Making yourself less available isn't about arrogance. It's about focus. It's about deciding that your energy will be spent where it matters most, not wherever someone else happens to want it. You are not a 20/40 service. You are a purposeful, powerful individual with goals, with dreams, with a calling that requires your full attention, not your constant distraction. There's power in being selective. There's strength in being strategic with your time. People respect what they must wait for, what they must earn, what they can't casually assume will always be there. When you're always available, you lower the urgency and depth with which people interact with you. You dilute the meaning of your presence. Serve from overflow, not from depletion. This principle is essential if you want to live a life of impact, purpose, and sustainability. Too many people are giving from an empty place, trying to meet needs, solve problems, and be everything for everyone while silently burning out on the inside. The problem isn't their heart, it's their approach. Their intentions are good, but their foundation is weak. You cannot serve others effectively if you are constantly running on fumes. Overflow only happens when you are full first. That means you must prioritize your spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical well-being. It means creating time for solitude, for reflection, for growth, for your own alignment. When you are full, when you are grounded, when you are clear on your identity and your mission, then your service flows from a place of abundance, not obligation. And people can feel the difference. Service from overflow is powerful, generous, life-giving. Service from depletion is strained, scattered, and often carries resentment beneath the surface. There is a belief many people carry that says, if I don't do it, no one will. That belief is rooted in fear, not faith. It leads to overcommitting, overfunctioning, and ultimately self-abandonment. You start putting everyone else's needs before your own. You say yes when you're exhausted. You pour out advice when you haven't taken time to hear your own inner voice. You help others chase their dreams while you sit on a shelf waiting for permission that never comes. That is not noble, that is neglect. The people you serve deserve the best of you, not what's left of you. That requires intentional refilling. It requires you to set boundaries, to say no without guilt, to rest without apology. Rest is not laziness, it's preparation, it's stewardship. Even the most powerful engines require fuel. You don't drive your car on empty and expect it to take you to your destination. In the same way, you cannot expect your body, your mind, your spirit to function at full capacity when you never pause to refuel. Overflow comes from connection, to purpose, to wisdom, to truth, to vision. It comes from being rooted in something greater than yourself. When you serve from overflow, you're not chasing validation. You're not trying to prove your worth by how much you do. You're simply giving from the abundance of who you are. Your giving becomes an extension of your identity, not a substitute for it. That kind of service is sustainable. It inspires others and strengthens you at the same time. Serving from depletion, on the other hand, often leads to bitterness. You start keeping score. You notice who didn't thank you. You resent people for needing too much. You feel unseen and unappreciated. Why? Because you gave beyond your capacity, not because they took too much. You were trying to serve without filling your own cup first. That cycle never ends well. It drains your energy, clouds your vision, and causes you to lose the joy that made you want to serve in the first place. Real impact does not require exhaustion. You don't have to destroy yourself to be meaningful. The most effective leaders, the most powerful mentors, the most transformational people are those who understand the rhythm of giving and receiving. They know when to work and when to rest, when to speak and when to listen, when to show up for others and when to be still and let themselves receive. That rhythm creates overflow. Overflow is not accidental. It is cultivated. It is built through daily choices, through alignment with purpose, through discipline and rest, through prayer, through wisdom. It is not just about having more energy. It's about having the right energy, the energy that comes from knowing who you are, why you're here, and what you're meant to give. When you live in overflow, you don't just give more. You give better. And the people you serve will feel the difference. Attract, don't chase. Position yourself as the solution. This idea shifts everything in how you move through business, relationships, leadership, and influence. chasing is rooted in a mindset of lack. It says, I need to go get something I don't already have. It assumes the power is outside of you. But attraction is the opposite. Attraction flows from identity, from clarity, from strength. It means you understand your value so deeply that you no longer feel the need to run after people, approval, or opportunities. Instead, you become a magnet for the right ones. When you chase, you're operating from desperation. That desperation leaks into your energy, your communication, your presence. People can feel when you're not secure in your value. They can tell when you're trying to earn their attention instead of embodying your authority. Chasing flips the dynamic. It puts the other person in the position of power and you in the position of pursuit. But when you position yourself as a solution, you shift the posture. You're not running after anything. You're standing in purpose and letting your presence do the work. In business, helps us. The best brands don't chase customers. They create undeniable value that makes the right customers come to them. They're clear on who they serve, how they serve, and what transformation they offer. They don't lower their prices or compromise their message just to get a quick sale. They don't pitch themselves to everyone. They focus on alignment, not volume. And because of that, they attract loyalty, not just attention. You must learn to do the same with your life. To position yourself as the solution, you must first know what problem you solve. That requires clarity about your gifts, your message, and your mission. Too many people are trying to be everything to everyone. They think casting a wide net will bring more opportunity, but what it actually does is dilute their effectiveness. When you're trying to please the masses, you become forgettable. But when you own your unique solution, you stand out. You speak directly to the people who need what only you can offer. This principle applies in relationships too. Chasing love, validation, or connection never leads to deep, lasting intimacy. When you position yourself as grounded, as someone who brings peace, vision, and stability, you begin to attract people who match that same frequency. You no longer need to convince others of your worth. Your energy, your discipline, your confidence speak for you. That's not arrogance, it's clarity. You've done the inner work to become the kind of person who draws the right people toward you naturally. As positioning also requires boundaries. When you know your value, you don't say yes to every opportunity. You're not available for everything and everyone. You understand that part of attracting the right things is saying no to the wrong things. You don't audition for approval. You don't shrink to fit in. You stand tall in your assignment, knowing that what's meant for you will recognize you, not because you begged for it, as it helps us, but because you became the answer someone was praying for. The most powerful people are not the loudest or the flashiest. They're the most aligned. They're the most certain. They're the most prepared. They walk into rooms with the confidence of someone who knows they don't have to compete, as it helps us, because they've already cultivated something within that speaks for itself. That is the posture of attraction. That is the positioning of a solution. The difference between chasing and attracting is the difference between effort and presence. One is constantly reaching, striving, hoping. The other is intentional, focused, and magnetic. You attract by becoming. You position yourself by embodying your own value, by walking with clarity, and by showing up with consistency and purpose. The right doors open when you stop chasing and start owning who you are. Saying no can be a form of wisdom, not rejection. Many people struggle with the word no because they've been conditioned to believe it's negative, selfish, or even rude. But in truth, is one of the most powerful tools for protecting your purpose. Every time you say yes to something, you are by default saying no to something else. When you say yes out of guilt or fear, you often end up saying no to your peace, your priorities, or your calling. That's why learning when how to say no is not just helpful, it's essential. There's a difference between being helpful and being used. There's a difference between being available and being unwise with your time. Wisdom knows that not every opportunity is the right one. Not every invitation is aligned. Not every request deserves your energy. Saying yes to everything will stretch you thin, dilute your effectiveness, and blur your sense of direction. But a well-placed no can guard your time, maintain your focus, and give you the freedom to say yes to what really matters. Saying no is not about shutting people out. It's about creating space for what is most aligned. Some doors are distractions. Some relationships are detours. Some assignments come dressed as opportunities, but are actually misalignments in disguise. If you never say no, you become a magnet for anything and everything, whether or not it fits your season or your purpose. You end up overwhelmed, off track, and questioning why you feel stuck. The answer often lies in a simple truth. You've been too afraid to say no. Wisdom discerns timing. There are things that may be right, but not right at now. There are people who may be good, but not good for you, as it helps us. Saying no doesn't mean you're judging or rejecting others. It means you are being responsible with your time and your energy. The more you grow in purpose, the more intentional your decisions must become. You cannot afford to move reactively. You must move strategically, and that requires the courage to say no without explanation and without guilt. Many people say yes to avoid disappointing others, but in doing so, they end up disappointing themselves. They silence their own needs. They ignore their intuition. They compromise their values just to keep the peace. But peace that costs you your alignment is not peace. It's a performance. And the longer you perform, the further you drift from your truth. Wisdom knows that you cannot be everything to everyone. You have to be clear on who you are called to serve and what you are called to do. There's a level of success and peace that only comes when you master the art of no. Not from a place of arrogance, but from a place of clarity. Clarity about your mission, clarity about your bandwidth, clarity about your priorities. That kind of clarity liberates you. It gives you the authority to turn down what doesn't align so you can fully commit to what does. You stop chasing approval and start honoring your values. Saying no sets boundaries that protect your capacity. Without boundaries, even good things can become burdens. Too many open doors will leave you exhausted. Too many voices will drown out your own, as it helps us. But when you say no to the noise, you can hear your inner guidance more clearly. You begin to move with intention instead of impulse. You start choosing from vision instead of fear. You start living from wisdom instead of reaction. People who understand your value will respect your no. They won't demand access you can't afford to give. They won't question your intentions just because you didn't bend to their expectations. And those who don't respect your no were never meant to have your yes. Your no draws the line. Your no reinforces your standards. Your no keeps your purpose intact while the world pulls in every direction. You're not for everyone. You're for the right ones. Trying to be everything to everyone is one of the fastest ways to dilute your impact and lose your identity. Many people fall into the trap of people pleasing because they fear rejection or want to feel accepted. They adjust their personality, soften their message, compromise their standards, or stretch their boundaries in the name of fitting in. But the truth is, not everyone is meant to see your value. Not everyone will understand your vision. And that's not a problem. It's part of your path. Every time you shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone, you step away from the fullness of who you were created to be. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to stand out. And standing out often means being misunderstood by the masses so you can be deeply seen by the few who are truly aligned with your purpose. Impact doesn't come from popularity. It comes from precision. The more focused and authentic you are, the more magnetic you become to the people who need your exact voice, your exact gift, and your exact message. When you embrace that you're not for everyone, you stop wasting time convincing, explaining, and proving. You no longer feel the need to water down your message just to avoid conflict or gain approval. You begin to understand that the right people are not confused by your clarity. They're drawn to it. They're waiting for it. Your boldness isn't offensive to them. It's the very thing that resonates because it aligns with their values and their vision. In every area of life, business, relationships, leadership, you must learn to filter, not just attract. Not every follower is a client. Not every supporter is a partner. Not every compliment is confirmation. Just because someone applauds you doesn't mean they're aligned with you. And just because someone criticizes you doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes criticism is just confirmation that you're finally standing firm in your identity instead of bending to other people's preferences. You're not for everyone, and that's where your power lies. The moment you accept this, you step into a new level of freedom. You become more effective because you're no longer chasing attention. You're focused on alignment. You're no longer trying to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. You're no longer afraid of losing people who were only meant to be part of a temporary season. You release the pressure to be understood by everyone, and instead you give yourself permission to be fully expressed, fully authentic, and fully present with those who truly connect with who you are. This mindset also sharpens your discernment. You stop saying yes out of fear and start saying yes out of conviction. You stop tolerating environments that don't honor your value. You stop explaining your worth to people who have already decided not to see it. And as you do, something powerful happens. The right people start to find you. The people who need your exact perspective. The clients who appreciate your process. The community that supports your growth. The relationships that match your energy and honor your standards. Being for the right ones means being honest about who you are, what you believe, and what you offer. It means showing up fully, even if it means turning some people off. You are not here to blend in with the crowd. You are here to stand in your lane with confidence and clarity. The people who are meant to walk with you will recognize you. They will find value in what others might overlook. They will not need to be convinced because your alignment speaks louder than your pitch. When you try to be for everyone, you become vague, generic, forgettable. But when you own your uniqueness, you become undeniable to the ones who are meant to walk with you. Your voice carries more weight. Your presence holds more purpose. Your life starts attracting the connections and opportunities that are in alignment with your assignment.